Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. Today, we are here to discuss insider trading and the destructive effect it has on Magic the Gathering. How it's helping, in some ways, to destroy Magic the Gathering. So to make sure we're all on the same page, I just want to cover a few things. Now, this is all coming to the forefront because of the new Pioneer format. As you may or may not know, I did a live stream a day before Wizards of the Coast announced the Pioneer format because Rogue Deck Builder came to me with information that he had gotten ahead of schedule. And now that was leaked down through other channels. There's a situation where information is being gained by certain individuals ahead of schedule. And so the idea of like insider trading essentially is the concept where somebody in the know, most likely directly an employee from Wizards of the Coast, is spreading information to particular individuals. There's a group apparently known as the Cabal, who are a group of high-level investors who have a lot of money to throw around. And they have contacts at Wizards of the Coast and can get this information before anybody else. Now, I can't confirm the existence of this group because I haven't been given access to any of the information about them aside from what I've just told you. I've literally told you everything I know. They're like a whisper on the wind, but I do believe that they exist. Now let's talk about the idea of insider trading for a second, because I don't want people to get all worked up. When people hear insider trading, they think of criminal action, they think of people getting in trouble with the law. Let's be clear. Insider trading isn't illegal when it comes to Magic the Gathering. Insider trading on, let's say, the stock market, for example, is something that is regulated by the government and totally is a crime. But when it comes to Magic the Gathering, there are no laws governing this. So gaining information ahead of time and acting upon it doesn't violate any sort of law. So while we are talking about insider trading, let's put aside that part where people start going, these people need to get criminal charges and all this kind of stuff, because it doesn't actually apply to the discussion. Now, what is pretty much an unavoidable fact of the scenario is this insider trading does lead to damage to the game of Magic. We're already seeing it with the Pioneer format. Before the format's even had a chance to have its first sanctioned event, it is already being damaged by insider trading. Is this a situation at all where insider trading is involved? I do genuinely believe so. Now, the information trickled down to me about the Pioneer format one day before it released, but I heard reports that up to 7 days before the day I found out about it, so like basically a week before that, all the way up until about the 14th. The 14th, I believe, was the date where somebody discovered the Pioneer format lodged inside of the WPN as a format that they could submit. Now, that is obviously a programming error where they didn't want to have Pioneer as something available then because they hadn't spread the information out through the WPN yet, the Wizard Play Network. I actually went and looked. I couldn't find anything earlier than 2 days ago about Pioneer on the WPN. So as far as I understand, WPN members weren't told about this in advance. The earliest that somebody could find out about this by Wizards having made a mistake was 7 days ago. And yet there are orders placed 10 days ago that are specifically for, like, we've seen a number of spikes specifically related to this new Pioneer format. In case you're not up to date and you don't know, I'm not going to go into a lot about the Pioneer format, but really simply, the Pioneer format is something Wizards of the Coast just introduced as something to fit in between Modern and Standard as this kind of middle gap where you don't have the expensive issues of Modern. Modern has become very expensive to get into. And so Pioneer is a way to use some older cards, but it's a less expensive format, more welcoming to new players. It's Return to Ravnica forwards, excluding the fetch land. So it's a really simple, straightforward format. It's wide open in terms of what you can use in it currently. And obviously when something like this gets announced, people are going to speculate and start to buy cards based on, they'll look at what was successful in different runs of Standard and go, okay, Aetherworks Marvel is in this. You know what? Let's snag up some of those. Okay, Jace Vryn's Prodigy is in here. Let's snag up some of those. Deathrite Shaman is inside this format. Let's snag up some of those. So I was digging around in some different finance groups, just kind of doing some research, trying to take a look at the impact that's already being made to Pioneer, because I know that these price spikes always accompany a new set coming out. But the thing about these spikes is they're early. They don't coincide with the announcement of Pioneer. They precede the announcement of Pioneer. And there have been posts made by sellers with TCG Player going, okay, look, this was made, this order for cards was put in before anybody at all was supposed to know about Pioneer. Before the WPN accident, before any of that, this order was put in. And this is someone ordering 80 copies of Deathrite Shaman. Like the cards that we all saw spikes on, these are all the cards that are on the list. These are all cards you would pick up specifically targeting for Pioneer. And it's not just TCG Player that's seeing this going on. It's actually things like Star City Games, for example. Ben Bleiweiss, I believe is how you say his name. He's one of the big dudes over at Star City Games. And he was talking about trying to aggregate information so he could investigate very sketchy, or not sketchy, I should say, very suspicious transactions that were made in advance for the same sort of cards. So we're noticing a pattern across card sellers where they're getting big orders for massive number of copies of these cards that all become desirable once you know Pioneer exists, but nobody should have known Pioneer existed at the time. Now, how does this information get out there? It's almost guaranteed that it has to come from Wizards of the Coast employees. And some people will say, why would a Wizards of the Coast employee risk their job by spreading this information? Well, one, it's going to be very hard to pinpoint who spread the information. It's going to be difficult to prove it. Two, you have to understand that Wizards of the Coast is not a very financially rewarding company in terms of how they pay their employees. Wizards of the Coast operates, especially when it comes to Magic the Gathering, off of this air of superiority, where the company says, you're lucky to get to work on Magic the Gathering. It's a privilege. And as a result of you getting the privilege of working on such a fantastic product, well, obviously we're going to pay you less than the industry standard. So Wizards of the Coast, you can find reports about this on Glassdoor and in other locations. They are known for underpaying their employees and instilling this mentality of Magic has this prestige and it's worth something just on its own. So as a result, you have employees that aren't going to be making as much money as they would at other companies with the same kind of job because they're working on Magic the Gathering. And when you're not making as much money, you may be tempted to look to the outside and go, you know what, I could make some money off this information. What's to stop, on top of informing other groups, there may be groups that actually have a bounty. And we have an investor group. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you come to our group, we will keep your secret because our group is secret, and we will pay you X amount of dollars. We'll give you $1,000 for a really solid lead or something like that. Where it's essentially the Wizards employee doesn't even have to risk being the one to buy a bunch of the cards up themselves, and they can just take the money off the table and just go, sweet, this is for me now. There's also the potential of the Wizards employees themselves being the insider traders as well. How is Wizards of the Coast ever going to know that their employees have gone out and bought 100 copies of all of these cards in advance? There's no way to track these cards. It's not like some sort of online digital database where they see ownership of cards traded place. None of that happens, right? It's all just happening real world cards. You've got the card. Nobody knows how you got it. Nobody knows how many copies you have. You can buy them without anybody knowing. You can sell them without anybody knowing, aside from the actual company buying and selling them. But you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of room to just kind of submerge the data in terms of who's doing what. Privacy in this regard is very easy. So insider trading becomes a very attractive thing. And you think to yourself, well, why wouldn't they do it? What's to stop them? I mean, we have the evidence of price spikes before there should have ever been the possibility of price spikes. And in the sheer amount of these cards that are being purchased is enough to be worrisome to large vendors like Star City Games, to the point where they're like, we need to investigate this. They want to find out who has this information. Obviously, they don't want somebody coming along and buying 80 copies of a card off of them and then they obviously want to sell as many cards as they can. But at the same time, they don't want to go, oh, we just sold 80 copies of this card, and 2 days later, it's quadrupled in value because it's massively in demand now. So these retailers are losing out. Now, to me, I mean, that's not something I particularly care about. The retailers losing out on their sales isn't really an issue for me. The reason I'm bothered by all of this is how it affects the end player of the game. You have to understand, I've been playing Magic the Gathering since 1994, and I firmly believe that Magic cards should be accessible and affordable. I know there are a number of people who don't share my opinions. They want cards to be expensive. They want to feel like they're better than other people because they have more cards. They want their cards to be worth a lot of money. There's all these different reasons that people disagree with me. But I, for one, want cards to be affordable. And that's why when a format like Pioneer comes along, it's attractive, because Modern was created, the reason Modern was created was because Vintage was too expensive. It was too expensive to try and play those old formats. Trying to track down the dual lands specifically became a real problem. The dual lands are what you need to play these old school formats, and there were only so many of them, and the price on them kept going up and up and up and up, where now playsets can cost in the range of thousands of dollars, which is absolutely incredible. And you look at Modern and they went, okay, we'll make Modern. It's all the newer borders, all the newer cards. We can just use those. It'll be far more accessible because people already have some of these cards. And on top of that, the card prices aren't that high. Now, what's happened over the years? Well, Modern has swelled and ballooned out into its own financial monstrosity, where things like Mox Opal can easily run $100, $150. And again, we have a land problem. This time with the fetch lands, where fetch lands are getting obscenely expensive, and they are required if you want to play in Modern. So Wizards of the Coast comes along and goes, okay, well, Modern is suffering from the same problems that Vintage was suffering from, so we need a new format. We need a new Modern to help ease the situation. So they invent Pioneer, and they even ban the fetch lands to try and, well, for multiple reasons. One, to diminish the amount of expensive cards that will be in the format, and as another, to help define the format as its own thing, where we don't have the fetch lands, you don't have people playing 4 or 5 color decks, kind of different. It creates a different feel to the format, gives it its own identity, right? So we have Pioneer, and Pioneer comes along and they go, oh, this is cool. This is going to let people use a bunch of their older cards, and it'll be an accessible, more affordable format. But then we have this insider trading going on, where before the format even has a chance to take its first breath, people already have their hands at its throat financially, where the entire intent is to buy up a bunch of these cards and sell them for more than you paid for them to people who are trying to get into this format. So essentially, just increase the cost. Everybody who's doing this insider trading, at the end of the day, the side effect, their intention is to put money in their pocket. The goal of them is to put money in their pocket. But the effect, the side effect of what they're doing is to make the format more expensive for everyone else. That's what happens with this sort of thing. And it's one thing for a format to be announced and for people to speculate to a degree. Okay, you know what does this mean? What are they going to do with the format? This sort of thing. It's another to have concrete information from Wizards of the Coast. This doesn't just happen with Pioneer, right? When we're talking about a new Modern Master set or something being printed, anybody who knows what's in that print run knows, okay, the cards that are being printed are probably going to tank in price. Move any of those out of your collection. Are there cards, let's say Modern Masters 4 is coming along. You look at the Modern environment and you go, what are the big money cards in the Modern environment? Then you cross-reference that with the list of what's in the new Modern Master set. Anything that's getting reprinted, you go, okay, not going to touch those, and I'm going to sell off any copies that I have while they're still higher. Anything that's not getting reprinted but is crucial to the format, they then turn around and buy a bunch of copies in advance, knowing that once the set list drops and everybody knows what's in it, they'll be like, oh, there's an increased supply of cards A, B, C, and D, but cards E, F, those 2 cards are not coming back right now, which means anybody who wants to play Modern and play these superior decks needs cards E and F, so we push the price up on this. So this insider trading is having a destructive effect already on the Pioneer format, to the point where literally the format doesn't even have its first tournament registered. It doesn't have anybody having really played in it at all, and the price to play it has already increased preemptively. And to me, that is a genuine problem. That is not something to just be waved away. Now, the real issue is there's nothing we can do about it. Because when you look at it, there's no way for Wizards of the Coast to really catch it. What can be done, honestly, even if you look at it from the perspective of card sellers, if you look at it from the perspective of a TCG player seller or like somebody big like Star City, they can identify the individual who may have done this kind of a sale and go, okay, we're going to lock this guy's account out. But what's to stop them from getting other credit cards, right? You can just go and get another credit card. You can even buy prepaid credit cards and just create new accounts. So there's no real way to lock these people out of the system and stop them from doing what they're doing. And there's no way to pinpoint exactly where the information is coming from for a number of different reasons, just the nature of the beast. So to me, this is a problem that I see, but unfortunately, unlike with other scenarios I bring up, I don't really see a solution. It seems to me like insider trading is going to continue to plague Magic the Gathering, and it's going to continue to drive up costs for people who just want to play the game. And for me, that's a fairly heartbreaking scenario because, as I said, I started way back in the day. I want Magic to be an affordable thing we can all enjoy. So seeing this sort of stuff is disheartening to me. Now, maybe there is something I'm not thinking of that can actually be used to curb this sort of thing from happening. If you have a theory, by all means, share it with me down in the comment section because I am curious to hear your thoughts on this. I do want to take a moment to thank all my patrons and channel members. Thank you very much, guys, for supporting my channel. The fact that you choose to use your money to support what I do here is very meaningful to me, and I look forward to a very long time of creating content for you. So again, share your thoughts below about all of this. Is this something that bothers you at all? Is it something you've considered? Do you have any solutions that may solve this? Because again, at the end of the day, I'm just one dude, and I'm just sitting here, these thoughts rolling around in my head, and there's no way I can always see every angle, be 100% right. All I can do is bring my thoughts and theories to you guys and see what you have to say as well. So I shall see all of you lovely people here tomorrow.